casually or with contempt. These are things we cannot live without, but which we take for granted because they are always there. They should be used with care, never overindulged in, since that is also another form of waste, and received thankfully and with gratitude to the giver. I think this summarizes the whole concept of sustainable development as to how we can inculcate at the core of each person the concept of sustainable development. Shyam, next slide please. So this, we all know that the UN United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 of them. I don't know whether they've increased now. They are in the realm of economic, social and environment. Many of them are interrelated with each other. And the idea is that if everybody understands it very well and create a good environment, socially, economically and industrially, we will reach the sustainable development goal by 2030. Of course, there are lots of controversies around it. You must have heard Elon Musk is very upset because his company is not in the S&P 500 Sustainable Development Index because he's very outspoken. And there is a lot of criticism about it's not very clear. How do you trade off? For example, you have to switch off all the lights. Very sustainable, but how can you work? And in Bangalore, you will see many companies, they keep the lights on during the, all throughout the night. Sometimes because of, need, and sometimes because of branding, So how do you trade off sustainability versus the need and what is required for you to, and how do you ensure that, something is more efficient, but if something is more efficient, for example, they said A380 aircraft is very efficient in fuel efficiency. But then, you end up using more. Overall, you actually end up creating a problem for the environment. Next slide. So, there is lots of, I would say, rightfully so, alarmist reports about what's really happening in the world. Over 85% of the planet wetlands have been lost and so on and so forth. Many of them, I don't want to read through it. The point is that we are headed towards a huge disaster if we don't do anything about it. And SDG is, no matter what the controversies around it, it's definitely one of the good ways of moving towards a sustainable world. Next slide. This shows the green ones are the ones that have less waste, and the orange ones are the ones that are, the countries have a lot of waste. You can see there's a correlation between development and waste. More developed you are, more you waste. Next slide. And there are accusations to, against many companies that they do what they call the greenwashing. Greenwashing is, you are claiming a lot more than what you actually do. One example is, I saw somewhere in some paper, save the environment, use paper cups or paper glass, paper whatever. Then there is one more close to it, save trees, use plastic. So the debate is going to be never ending. What is, like Ravi asked, upstream versus downstream. You cannot really end this debate. It will go on and on. And activism versus genuine people who are genuinely worried about environment versus people like us who want to enjoy life and still be sustainable. Sometimes oxymoron, sometimes. So go next slide. If you look at this, the motivations for anything, especially in the corporate life, is there are three motivations. One is the law. You follow the law, you have to be compliant. Then there's the market motivation. Like Ramchandra sir spoke about very eloquently about market motivations, how you don't want to be seen to be polluting, you want to be seen to be doing the right things. Then there is ethical, you want to do the right things because you want to do the right thing. And the last is internal. And I think as a devotee of Sadhguru, as part of my topic, I want to focus more on how do we increase the individual internal motivation. Next slide. So typically in marketing, we have always 2 by 2 matrix. So this is no different. On the x-axis is the degree of self-awareness, and the y-axis degree of effectiveness. So as you move towards the right, in the diagram there, it's self-awareness is more. You're doing it because you want to do it, you know it's the right thing to do. And as you move upwards, it's more effective. In my view, the law is least effective because personally I find you can always get around and ensure that you meet the law. You meet the law, the requirements of regulatory compliance, still not be very effective, right? And of course you have the market because it's more self-aware because you want to ensure the market sees you in the right way. You move towards the right direction there, which is upwards and right towards the right. Then the next is ethics. Even ethics is all about what I have learned in college, what used to be morality that we used to learn in school, and it's called ethics. What used to be honesty, we were taught honesty is called integrity. Everything is kind of repackaged and retaught. And all the way up to the top right, which is spiritual. Now whatever that is, we all have our own understanding of what is spiritual. Spiritual motivation is the best motivation for us to be more effective and efficient. Next slide. Certain concepts, words that we use creates powerful imagery and creates impetus for action. If you look at many of our words that we use here, because traditional development is all about you remove grassland and put up a IT park. You clear forest and create a build a football ground. It is all, development in the current sense is all about destroying something and creating something new. But if you look at what is the true meaning of the word vikas in Hindi, in Sanskrit, it is to expand, to bloom, a process of metamorphosis, and not necessarily to replace something. And Prakriti in our culture has always been, that we are part of culture, part of nature. So, we cannot, there is no question of we're ruling over nature at the height, at the top of the food chain, right? And Shreyas, as we all know, is primarily for the larger good. We have a term called Shreyas, which is defer short-term goals, short-term pleasure, and pursue larger goals. Now we will go to how, next slide, we go to the, so if I have to meet a goal, what I have to do is, first is at the top is my action. I have to do the right action. And then my action is dependent on my choice. What choice? I have lots of options today. Today, the modern world of free world is all about choices, right? So we have a choice. And then my choice depends on my motivations. How am I motivated to take that choice? What are the motivations? And we saw the motivations in the earlier slide. And my motivation is driven by my thinking, and thinking in turn driven by my state of my mind, all the way down to what is core to me. And as a devotee of Sadhguru and Swamiji, I think the Upadeshams, they really appeal to the core of every human being. And sustainability, though we talk a lot about countries and corporates, what are corporates made of? People. Society is made of people. So finally, it's all about what is core, and how do I interpret sustainability within me? Should I not go to a party, tonight, and should I be sustainable and not be at home? Should I not buy that car? Very difficult. But then I think the best way is to have to bring about an internal transformation, and then allow that transformation to play it out in society, in corporates, right? Now, next slide. Next slide. With the blessings of Sadhguru, I read out some, so Upadeshams. Next one. So, Sripidam is founded on 4 principles: Satyam, Satya, Ahimsa, Dharma, and Bhava Samshuddhi, otherwise also called Shaucham. Next slide. So, if you look at this slide, action is necessary. It is not possible to remain without acting. And what is important to examine our behavior and intentions. And then you do it if it is worthy of being offered to God. If it meets all the criteria, then only you should repeat it. So that is related to action. Next slide. Motivations. We spoke about motivation in that slide, right? Happiness does not come from the satisfaction of desires, but rather from the cessation of desires. When desires are satisfied, then they cease to exist till a new one comes and disturbs our peace of mind. The sudden cessation of desire, because I got something today, I got my new pair of suit, or I bought my new car, that cessation of desire creates a sudden joy. Now, does Sadhguru ask us to deny ourselves from the worldly things? No, she does not, right? It is realization that the desire that I fulfill, as Sadhguru has always told us, is not from the object, but from the temporary suspension of want, right? Now, next slide. My choice. We spoke about choice in that diagram, in that graph. Each person, there are two natures, lower nature and higher nature. So we have to cultivate the higher nature so that the lower nature gets subdued. Again, a very important part in ensuring that every person at his or her core practices sustainability, in the daily life. Next slide. In a world, if your happiness is dependent on something outward, something outside of you, then you are likely to become unhappy because of it. But if your happiness is based on something that is internal, feeling of gratitude, contentment, and the satisfaction from having done one duty well, and as an offering to God, then the happiness lives on. Now, this is sometimes difficult, because should I say that I should not buy my latest pair of shoes? Should I say that I should not, buy a new home? I think that is not the point. Sadhguru wants us to, suddenly move on to a state of complete self-denial, but again, understanding. Just understand this and do what you think is right for you without preaching to others, which I don't know. I'm just quoting Sadhguru, right? So, the inner world is important, and then, in my view, Sadhguru always pushes us towards internal transformation and not symbolic external change, right? The next one, thoughtful use. I read it out, it's already here. And Swamiji used to say, he said in the Aligarh Muslim University meeting, he made one statement, which is, even when I take water, and I drink a little and leave it here, that is also some kind of, he spoke in the context of violence there in AMU. So, but they're all connected. He said that's also a bit of, you have to ensure that you don't waste that wastage of natural resources, and water, sleep, and food. Sleep is a natural resource. So don't waste anything, and that is, you can interpret that as ahimsa, not overindulging, or you could interpret that as in terms of sustainable development. Next one. And the one foundation, food is a basic need, water is a need, shelter is a need, and the most basic need is the need for God's grace and love. God's grace and love. That's a need that most people ignore, and that is why most people are unhappy. And when that need is fulfilled, all else will also be automatically fulfilled. Sadhguru used to talk about the peace that passeth all understanding. Have I got that? I have not, right? But then, can I aspire for it? I can aspire for it. Does it have a connection with sustainable development? I think intuitively we all feel that way. Next one. Summarizing, that's, if we can address the core, address each of us as humans, as from a personal perspective, bring about a transformation, follow the right things that our Guru has taught us. I think that will contribute. It is not that we don't want to do other things, we also want to do other external things, but it is driven by certain momentum that comes from inner core transformation. Pranam to Sadhguru, Pranam to Swamiji, thank you for the opportunity. We follow these 4 pillars, then the planes coincide. If you, dharma, artha, kama, moksha of course is a consequence of doing the right things. Satyam, ahimsa, dharma and bhava samshuddhi, then that becomes much more powerful. And Sadhguru in one of her speeches has one word she had used is have fun, and that was, somebody can tell me, have fun, and that fun, dharmic fun. Okay. Is there, I don't know whether I am quoting Sadhguru properly there. Enjoy in a dharmic way, and Guru, Swamiji also quotes about that is not opposed to dharma. Bhagavad Gita's one of the slokas, right? Dharma aviruddha. Yeah. So I think that's how these two planes coincide. Do you agree?
Yeah. One more side issue. You also have the Abraham Maslowian pyramid, where it talks about the basic needs at the bottom and then transcendence at the very top. But if we go by this, there is a simultaneity.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
The spiritualism has come into existence to fight against materialism. I don't know when it started, but it goes on and on. When this fight ends? That is my question.
Fight against materialism?
Fight between the spiritualism and materialism. It started long back. It goes on and on. When will it be end? When will it end?
Yeah. I don't think I'm really qualified to answer in the context of this presentation, but my one-liner here is, we also hear from many Gurujis and even Swamiji that materialism and spirituality are not opposed to each other, and there are ways and means to reconcile these two. They seem to be opposed to each other. They are not. That's my answer. But if there are better people to answer this question, I feel, and if the chairman feels there is time,
take a shot at it. Absolutely. But just
sir,
one last answer,
sir,
please,
before
I
that?
summarize.
You can be doing nishkama karma also. I mean, you are doing something pretty violent, but it's also a dharmic action. And that is precisely the beauty of our tradition, I guess, where action is lauded, but hankering or, worrying about the fruits is proscribed. So it is possible to live that life even while doing something pretty violent or demanding, if I may say. Yeah.